Hello, friends. This is another episode of the Empire of Lies program, in which we discuss manipulation and disinformation in the Russian media. After illusions, responsibility Europe and Russia on the brink of a second phase of confrontation, this is war. When an official Kremlin spokesman says this out loud, talk of special operations, crisis, and escalation ceases to be fig leaves. Language calls things by their proper names, and in doing so changes the rules of the game. In the logic of war, time, money, resources, vulnerabilities, and risks are calculated differently. Industry and finance are structured differently. Maps are read differently, not as a set of borders, but as a system of vulnerability corridors, logistical hubs, and points of preemptive action. War has another property. It removes masks. NATO infrastructure, intelligence, targeting, logistics, training, armament, political cover has long been hidden behind the signboard Ukraine. The incidents in the Baltic and Black Sea suggest a stress test of Moscow's patience and the resolve of European capitals. Behind the grand speeches in New York lies an attempt to cover up the real work along Russia's borders, from Kaliningrad to the Danube and the Caspian. Today, the key question is not who is to blame, but what to do when the first hybrid phase has reached its limit, and how to prevent Europe from falling into a scenario where it pays, risks, and decides the least. The map is no longer flat. What the risk perimeter looks like. The frontline canvas familiar to TV viewers is no longer about 21st century war. The real map is a network: the Baltics, Poland, Romania, Moldova, Transnistria, the Black Sea, the Southern Urals, and the Caspian. These are the entrances for provocations and the exits for escalation. The second phase, the forceful, not the hybrid, is provoked not by grand gestures, but by a series of supposedly private episodes. Unmarked drones, air defense responses to cities, the right of interception, and NATO air defense with the right to strike Russian targets in Belarus and throughout Russia. In this logic, the statement, "we will shoot down," ceases to be mere bravado. It is the entrance to a direct confrontation. New York noise and silent preparations. This year's UN General Assembly became a Vanity Fair. Loud declarations followed one another, but history is not written by applause. History is written by ammunition delivered to depots, unmanned aerial systems accepted into production, rotations of military advisors, and unofficial protocols signed in silence. The UN, alas, is turning into a stage set, with the Secretariat captured by radical Atlanticists. This isn't self-destruction, but a controlled arena in which the noise from the podium obscures the work on the ground. While some argue about paper tigers and goodwill gestures, others are laying out the stages of provocations at sea, in border areas, and in the air. Wartime economy. What does admitting this is war mean? If this is war, financial and economic policy must shift from a fight inflation mode to a win the war mode. This doesn't negate price stability, it changes priorities. Defense industry demand for raw materials isn't overheating, but insurance against strategic defeat. Defense industry lending isn't a privilege for the sector, but an investment in reducing losses and shortening the duration of a conflict. Energy protection for refineries, substations, bridges and tunnels isn't a security expense, but rather conserving the country's resources. There's no room here for fetishes, a bet for the sake of a bet, or cosmetics. There are two simple criteria. 1, does the solution reduce the risk horizon? 2, does it speed up victory at a lower cost? Dmitry Sergeyevich Peskov is already saying outright that this is war. And if this is war, then we must approach everything that happens from this perspective. This means not only that, as has already happened in our defense industry, where production volumes have increased, but also that our approach to the economy, our approach to everything, must be tested by the laws of war. Understanding that we are not facing just any Ukraine, we are facing the entire NATO bloc, which is reconnoitering, verifying, finalizing, striking, presenting itself as a means of destruction, and which is now preparing us for the situation where, once we have dealt with the Ukrainian Nazis, as they currently believe, we will emerge weakened and be able to strike us. That's why tanks are already advancing toward our borders in the Baltics. That's why we see this insane rhetoric. We will shoot down Russian planes. And Sergei Vyacheslavovich Lavrov says, you simply don't understand what will happen. When a drone flies outside our territory, if it crosses someone's border but exits our airspace, everyone is probably within their rights to do with it whatever they deem necessary to ensure their own safety. But if there are attempts to shoot down any flying object, or any object at all, on our territory in our airspace, then I think people will seriously regret committing such a flagrant violation of our territorial integrity and our sovereignty. I know for a fact that the British are assisting the Ukrainians in all these nasty things, just as they have for centuries in our geopolitical space. So we are well aware of this, and our military intelligence is working hard. And our Foreign Intelligence Service periodically exposes the true face of those who try to concoct such provocations. Well, what the answer will be, I think it's not very promising to guess now, but the answer to this kind of thing, especially if they start to take some physical steps, they will seriously regret it. Anything that fails this test is a peacetime luxury. Air game rules, from air defense to drone-centric architecture. War has become vertical. Drones are not an add-on, but the center of combat architecture. Those who quickly restructure production, tactics, and communications gain momentum. And momentum in war is converted into space. The model of massive, cheap interceptors plus mobile electronic warfare plus sensor network plus reliance on local and aerostatic barriers is not a theory, but a necessary, meticulous routine. Every intercepted, slow-moving interceptor is a saved workshop, machine, line, or week of production. War is arithmetic, where 1,000 inexpensive solutions are often more effective than a single perfect and expensive one. This was the program Empire of Lies. With you, see you soon.